Really. To be honest, you can say whatever you like.
You can swear if you want.
Yeah, you can. But you can.
Talking about the fucking Eagles, isn't it?
Yeah. In this episode,
I'm Milivojevic, and I'm just popping in to talk about Crystal Palace.
The Fantasy Football Show.
hello listeners, and welcome to episode 19 of the Planet FPL 30 in 30. My name's Suj.
My name's James. What episode did you say?
19.
Oh, yeah, you're correct.
I was
Nice.
correct, mate. I've been on the ball recently, more than I have.
Your fuck-ups have been quite limited recently.
Yeah, getting better. I realised that actually there's quite a lot of people that listen to this now, and I might have to make an effort.
When are you going to start?
Yeah, you said it. You're the one that said it. My fuck-ups are limited recently. Who do we have on the show today, Jammers?
We have, as many would have met at the Planet FPL live show, our Crystal Palace expert, Mig, at Milivojevic. How are you, sir?
I'm not too bad, thanks, lads. I'm not sure I'd use the word expert. That seems to be thrown around a bit too much in FPL, so I'm
We'll
not going to take
accept
that.
applications for a Crystal Palace correspondent in the near future.
It's self-proclaimed. I'm a self-proclaimed expert at a ton of stuff, but it's me. I'm the one that said that I'm the expert. So, yeah.
Expert, on a serious, expert is a terrible, terrible word for anybody producing FPL content, and we are not experts.
Considering it's a large guessing game, but go on then, tell us, Mick, how was your 2018-19 season? Did the numbers make you an expert? Top 100k?
Far from. Well, not too far from the top 100k. I finished about 134, something like that. I dipped in and out of top 100k. I think the highest I got was 23, but then I sort of fuffed it over the doubles and the blanks and sort of fell away and not be able to catch up. I faffed it. So I'm too PG. I'm not used to using F words.
Faff's a good one. I think
Nim doesn't allow it.
Did you adopt the same chip strategy that a lot of people did? What we called it the chunky chips, in terms of building up to the blanks in 31 and 33, free hit 32, and then wild card 34 for 35.
I think so. It was a long time ago. I'm not really... No, I used my free hit. About 36. I think it was when F1 didn't use it. I kind of tried to go away from everyone, but it kind of didn't work. I got my Brighton defenders the wrong way round.
That week,
which just makes me dislike them even more.
If you feel bad about what Brighton did to you, I don't think that anyone suffered as badly from Brighton as James did, with knockouts, red card, and Glenn Murray playing only one game. I feel like, James, look on James's face.
No.
Like, why are you bringing up old
moving
wounds
on
for
because
me?
I kind of said to Mig some of the things I'm going to talk about, but just while you mention it, this rivalry with Brighton, what the fuck is that, mate?
It's a local derby, isn't it? No, it's not. It's really not. It stems from two managers that used to play with each other, and then they kind of managed each of us and said some harsh words about each other, and then there were some fights and stuff over Christmas, and then it sort of just evolved to... Because we didn't really have much as well at the time. We had sort of Millwall and Charlton and stuff, but... So it's just sort of more of a rivalry of two managers that developed into clubs rather than a local derby.
Which two
like
managers
yourselves.
is that? I don't... Are we going back a long way?
Is that important?
Terrible. It was the 70s.
Okay.
It's 70s, 80s sort of time. But before my time.
It's so random. I've never known that
Far
to
before my
really... I mean, kind of United and Liverpool is not a... I mean, geographically, it's about as close as Palace and Brighton, and obviously that's a rivalry because of what the two clubs have achieved. But I've never known two clubs like this to have a rivalry when there are so many clubs in between. I mean, what you say, like Charlton and Millwall and clubs like that, would make so much more sense.
Oh yeah, we used to have a rivalry. I think it was also because of where we were in the league at the time. I think we clashed in the FA Cup. We were in the same sort of league, whereas then we went up a tier and we sort of missed all the sort of Millwall and the Charltons until we went back down into Division 1 as it was at the time. But then the Brighton thing just developed sort of outside the pitch as well as on the pitch. So then it just kind of... It sort of blew up. It sort of died down a bit there. They have charity matches and stuff between us, so it's not bitter.
And the actual club formed closest to Crystal Palace is obviously Arsenal. Do you have a serious rivalry with them?
Oh dear.
We used to until they ran away.
Scared them off. It's wicked.
Nice. Mig, tell us briefly, because you've got your own pod, tell us briefly about what you do with Nim.
Yeah, it's the FPL pop-in pod. We haven't really done any in recent times. I think the last one we done was before the blanks and the doubles, but that's mainly on my sort of side. I tend to work a lot more now, so we didn't really find the time for it. But basically, Nim, how it all sort of started, we knew each other sort of before for a couple of years, and then Nim started with her YouTube channel and her Twitter page, and sort of done that for a year. I didn't really know she'd done FPL too seriously, so then we started chatting more about FPL, and then in that summer I thought, I like listening to podcasts. Nim had been on a couple like Fan Feud that Don used to run, so I thought, in my infinite wisdom, how hard can a podcast be talking about FPL? So I asked her over the summer, and she said yeah, and we started the Poppin' Pod not last season, the season before. And it was mainly just because there were so many podcasts that were quite lengthy, like sort of hour and a half, sort of like yourselves that talk more about FPL. We sort of just wanted to have like a little shortened one, just sort of like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30, just so people could just literally pop in, have a listen, and pop back out. But yeah, it was a welcome distraction in a way of getting me into more of a serious side of FPL, which then launched into like helping yourselves and helping 90 minutes at a time and stuff like that. But hopefully next year we're sort of moving it more to a monthly thing, so then we can actually have it more regularly rather than getting haphazard and 1 week having it, 1 week not having it.
I'm all for kind of shorter form content for sure, like you're talking about 20 minutes. But the problem is, honestly, James is laughing. We've tried. We honestly have tried. And even the 30 and 30s, the plan was 30 in 30 being 30 podcasts in 30 days, but also to keep them to 30 minutes.
Doesn't work.
No, not one has been 30 minutes so far. As soon as we turn the mics on and we start talking about football, next thing you know, an hour's disappeared.
Yeah, that's exactly what we found. It's like you start talking, you end up finishing talking about the last game week, and you're already half an hour into the show, and you're like, how am I going to edit this down?
It's been difficult for us with the correspondence as well, because we start talking, what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
We just keep going. Nim's done really well for herself, hasn't she? Like her vids and that are great.
Yeah, she really has. Yeah,
it's just such a shame that she's a go now. She's a good girl. I like her.
Right. It's got to be the one or twos. I think her family pressed it upon her, so she didn't really have a choice.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Eagles, mate.
Eagles.
Now, just for the listeners' benefit, just in case, we're recording this 4 days before it goes out. Where are we at, mate? There's obviously strong rumours with the young startlet at right back, mate. How does it look?
Well, he's not going anywhere. I don't know what you're talking about. No, well, every single day it seems to be something different. You've got Sky Sports saying he's 50 million, now they've agreed 60, now he's 70 mil. Now they're trying to get an agreement to drop the the sell-on clause in Wilf's contract, which sort of knocks on an extra 10 mil onto Wan-Bissaka's potential deal to those fellas up north.
I'm assuming it's United that are the ones that are sniffing around, because I haven't kept...
It is.
Yeah, they're the only one I've seen linked with him probably since Arsenal dropped out of the Europa League. But yeah, Man United seems to be the only one linked with him, which I'm quite surprised by. But I suppose once Man United are linked with someone, they're the only ones that seem to be linked with them until they lose interest.
Yeah, I could only see if City wanted to go in.
Man City would, just to drive the price up for United. That's the kind of thing that they'd be interested to do in the same way that they did with Sanchez. I mean, every time, I bet if you went to the Etihad around the boardroom table and said Alexis Sanchez, they'd all just have a little giggle to themselves.
I think it's United.
It's a running joke.
It was United that drove up the price in Sanchez.
Completely.
So, yeah, look, we've obviously spoken about him so many times, Mig. I hope he stays there. I'm a little concerned for his development, actually, about him going too soon if he does.
Yeah, especially, I mean, with a team like Man United, I wouldn't be surprised if he went straight
would,
in at right back
100%.
because they haven't really got much there.
Valencia's about
He hasn't
300
got much
years
there,
old now,
but
so he would be by far away starting right back.
He's been dropped, isn't he? Exactly. And I've seen people complaining or saying on Twitter, like, oh, he's not that great, you know, why is he making so many tackles? Because he's already letting people past him and going to ground.
That's bollocks.
But that's the point of playing at a side like Palace, whereas he went to somewhere like Man United or Man City, where they're going to have possession 90% of the time, you're going to see a lapse in his performances because he's not a possession-based player who's going to run up and down the wings and get crosses in like a Walker or a Trippier or something like that. He's the one who's going to retain the ball, and he's going to pass it to someone like Wilf or Milivojevic, who can then move it forward. So you're not going to see as big a performances from him because he's not going to have that many opportunities to make those lunging tackles and be the quote-unquote spider, as his nickname is, that he's going to be as he would at somewhere like Palace.
If that's his style of play, as in there's no denying his pace and tackling ability. I would let people run past me. It's like, go on, have a go. Then if you think you're going to outpace me, get past me, go on, have a go, and then nip in and take the ball away. That's his strength. You've got to play to that strength. It doesn't matter if it then means your stats are showing that you're having to make more lunging tackles or whatever it may be.
Exactly. And since he was a winger to start with, and then he trained himself to be a defender, just shows even more what sort of a player he will become. And I don't expect him, unless Palace move up along with him. I'm realistic. I don't think he'll be here for the rest of his career. But in the early stages, I think it would benefit him more being at a club like Palace, where he's grown up, and to become a player and then make that top tier, so he doesn't make the same sort of mistake that Wilf did a few years ago.
He's got great temperament as well, Wan-Bissaka.
Oh, he's down to earth.
That's how it strikes me.
I mean, he's one of those ones that has an old head on young shoulders. I know it gets used so many times, but he's really down to earth and he's so mature.
Let's treat it on a positive and assume he stays. He's obviously not going to be 4 million next year. 5?
Oh God, no.
Would it be 5? Do you think?
It'd either be 5 or 4.5 because I think last year we only had PVA was 5.5 and then you had Saka at 5 and then the rest were 4.5. So I can't. And he's only really, because he doesn't get the attacking returns, he's really just a bonus magnet. It would be topped at 5. I'd be surprised if he was 5, but then Sacco was. So I can probably see him, but in a whole mil jump. I'd hope he'd be 4.
It makes a bit of your decision-making process in FPL slightly different because so many people owned him at 4 million, but then benched him week in, week out, and then he kept bringing in the points week in, week out. So you're in that annoying no man's land of having a 4 million player that's outscoring some of your more expensive players, but because he's your bench fodder, you leave him on the bench. And that was the problem we had at the start of the season. It's like, how many points did we leave Wan-Bissaka on the bench for? If he becomes 4.5 or 5, which he will, one or the other, you then buy him with the mindset of having him in your starting 11 rather than bench fodder, which is a different kind of decision-making process, isn't it?
I think he'd be 5, and I think he'd just get ignored. And I think were he to end up at United, you possibly even talking 5.5, 6. The fellow on the other flank is interesting, Mig. I was looking a bit at his data. PVA is a little bit of an FPL legend, as you will. Rather unnoticed. Last year was his highest points return.
Yeah, he's sort of one of the ones that went under the radar a lot. Because of his price, I don't think a lot of people owned him. And they were more focused on joining his fantasy league than actually having him in their teams. But, I mean, he does get a lot of assists. And he does like to score, especially at the end of the season when he can relegate a club.
He's game week 37 special, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Especially when he sees the likes of Huddersfield or Hull City and he thinks, right, I can get my name on the back of newspapers now. But
we know what it's all about now.
As long exactly. So basically, you don't want him for most of the season and bring him in about game week 34.
That's what a lot of people did this year. He was in their squads for the last 4 or 5 game weeks of the season. What's your views on James Tompkins? I asked as an ex-West, as being one of our ex-West
I think
Ham
he knew
players.
why you were asking.
I liked him at West Ham. I don't know why.
You let us have him.
I wouldn't have sold him myself. He was a decent centre half. I still think he is a decent centre half at the price that he is in FPL as well.
Yeah, especially with Saka alongside him, because they, as a partnership, they were greater than the sum of the two parts, as it were. I mean, there was a record that they went like 12, 13 games unbeaten with those two in the side, and then there was a noticeable difference. Once one of them left, it's almost like they had to readjust themselves to playing with, obviously, with someone else. But as a week in, week out centre back, I think he's done he's excelled this season, especially in the partnership. So I don't think. Well, at West Ham, he didn't really have the opportunity, I don't think, to really cement himself as one of the centre backs when you had like Reed and Collins and stuff ahead of him. He was probably more of a bench part player, but as Palace, he's certainly established himself in place of Scott Dan when he got injured. But then we haven't really got much else, to be fair, at centre-back, besides those two, when we're having to struggle with people like Riederveld.
Is Tompkins and Sacco, is that first choice now? Because Dan obviously had a run towards the end of the season.
Yeah, that's the first choice, because Sacco got ruled out for the rest of the season. I think around March time, and then Tompkins got ruled out, so we got left with Dan and Kelly. But yeah, Tompkins and Sacco is definitely the sort of the glue in that centre back, along with Aaron on the right and then Patrick on the left.
So let's say that's the starting back four next year. Let's say Wan-Bissaka at 5, PVA 5.5, Sacco 5, Tompkins 4.5. If you had to buy one.
Ooh.
None of them.
Yeah, because I was going to say, James, I don't know if it complicates the question. By all means, strike my part of the question out. But Schlupp was cheap, and if you're going,
no, it's a good shout.
If you were going, and he was definitely an out of
Schlupp's
position.
very cheap, yeah.
He's playing holding midfield or midfield more than he was in defence last
But he'll
season.
probably get reclassified, won't he?
That was part of my question. But if
Yeah.
Schlupp was 4 or 4.5, then he's a potential bench fodder player that would take the place of Wan-Bissaka. Whereas, I suppose your decision is: are you going to buy a Palace defender for bench or to start? Like, that is your question. Who would you pick and play, or who would you pick and bench?
It
Or doesn't
depends
matter?
where you're throwing your budget about. These guys are going to come into people's thoughts. We say it every pod nearly because of the Liverpool City problem.
Yep. Well, we do now that we know the fixtures for sure. So
Someone like Sacco could sit as your third defender every week in your team at 5 million. It's all right. Like, if he's going to stay fit and that, he wins so many balls aerially. He's one that he's gravitated towards BPS and that.
But I think Tompkins is more of a threat at set pieces. I don't know if you'd agree, Mig.
Yeah, I think he tends to run towards the front post more than I think Sacco does. He tends to, as he's the bigger lad, he tends to stand up in the middle to try and reach something. But Tompkins is surprisingly, as he's not the tallest of guys, he's leaps pretty good for a centre back. And I think he has more goals from set pieces as well.
I think the best defensive investment at Palace next year might be the goalkeeper. If he's 4.5,
yeah, we should.
I was looking at his points per
that-
match against some of the keepers who were playing regularly, and it's only Alisson, Edison, Loris, Pickford, and Etheridge who had a better points per match record than Gator.
I was going to clarify which keeper there,
Oh,
because
well,
obviously they
there
had
you
the in and out with a bit of injury, but Guaita obviously finished the season.
Yeah, so that's on points per match.
Yeah.
So Gator's average was 4 per match.
And we're sure he'll be the starting keeper next season as well. There's no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah, I should have.
What do you think of
yeah.
him, Mig? Because in spite of saying he would be a real 4.5 consideration for me, I'm not sure if I rate him or not. I'm a bit confused.
He has his moments. He had it like in the
That's
FA
the
Cup.
game
He
I'm
had a bit
thinking
of a flappy
He had a
hand
flap
ski.
at Watford, yeah.
Yeah, but then the alternative in Wayne has also had his flappy hand moments. But,
in more ways than one.
as it were, slip of the tongue there. But as a shot stopper, I highly rate him. His decision making sometimes with crosses and set pieces, or even just distribution, can leave him at times. But as a pure shot stopper, like a Fabianski or a De Gea sort of thing, obviously I'm not comparing him to De Gea, he's much better. But I think at that level, he's a good option, especially at 4.5, and he should be ahead of Hennessy. And with our 4 mil legend Speroni leaving during the summer, then
has he finally retired?
Nailed for that first spot.
He's finally.
He has, yeah. He hasn't been offered an extra year contract like he did last time he retired. But,
Julian Speroni sat on a lot of people's benches the last few years, bless him. I think his final act was to try and keep Liverpool in the title race, wasn't it? I think Gator, if he's 4.5, he might turn out to be the best. I think last year it was fairly clear it was going to be Fabianski or Patricio, excluding the promoted clubs. Yeah. Of the regular keepers that we were already aware of at that price, I think it might be Gator this year. Mig, go on.
Especially when you think that someone like Fabianski and maybe even Patricio could make that jump up to 5
Probably
mil.
Will.
And sort
That's
of
the thing. I think last year's good 4.5s will be this year's 5s.
Yep.
And doesn't make him attractive. If the Newcastle keeper Dubravka dropped back down from 5 to 4.5, that might be interesting. But I don't know if he will. And then that does leave the newly promoted clubs or the likes of Guaita. Maybe Matt Ryan. I don't rate Brighton though, so that's why I
you keep saying that'll make Mig happy.
Well, yeah, so I was going to join it.
You just keep going, and Dunk's leaving them as well. So
off on his bike to Leicester, is it? Possibly, maybe.
On that Instagram post I saw the other day, he needs to sort his fucking Barnet out. I know that.
Tell me about
Mig, rarely does a pod go past for us without kind of the back of our minds VAR being mentioned. When you mention VAR, nobody's name comes up more than Luka Milivojevic.
Because of Will Zaha.
Because of Will Zaha, a lot, yes. Where do you think he'll sit price-wise, and should he be in our teams?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I think his price is definitely going to go up purely because of VAR. Because the expectation will be there'll be a lot more penalties, like there was in the World Cup and there is in the Women's World Cup at the moment. But probably, what was he last year? 6.5.
He was
last year, I think it was.
7. He started at 6.5.
So I can imagine him being that sort of Sigurdsson 7.5, 7 mil easily. I think
that's where I think he'll be at 7.5. Yeah.
I don't know if the official game will look at the future in terms of VAR giving more penalties as a reason to price up players necessarily. But he would have had a price rise anyway, just at the back of his stats last season, even without VAR.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt to me like he added free kicks to his repertoire as well, because I don't remember the season before last him banging in the free kicks in the way he did last season, 3 or 4 goals from free kicks. He's got to be a consideration.
No, he had
7.5 even.
Oh, it'll definitely be a consideration for that sort of third, maybe fourth midfielder, depending on where you're distributing your money. But he definitely added set pieces in general to his game and just shots from outside the box, trying to provide. Because we had that 3-man midfield, he was the sort of one that was maybe a little bit more advanced than people like Kouyaté and Max Meyer, who were sort of sat back a little bit more. He was the one who was trying to thread it through to people like Wilf and Townsend.
22 goals in 2 years.
That's a very decent shout. Very decent shout indeed.
18 yellow cards.
That's quite a lot.
What I'm just saying is, if the penalties and that dry up,
you're trying to say,
yeah.
You're not getting a Milivojevic in for that extra sort of clean sheet bonus expectation. You are sticking him in there for his conversion of set pieces as and when they get them. So were it to dry up, you're looking at suddenly a very expensive midfielder who's going to be returning you quite a few ones, I would suggest.
Yeah, but that's you can flip that argument the other way. If VAR does deliver more penalties, he's going to become the asset of the game potentially.
I can see so many people who have got VAR in their mind just going with Milivojevic and forgetting about it, even if it's 7.5. I can't see it coming more than that.
What happened 2 years ago? I don't know if you were in the same boat as me, Mig, but when I owned Milivojevic 2 years ago, he was so cheap, he was bench fodder, and then kept banging in the penalties, and all the points sat on my bench. And then last season he became that little bit more expensive. I didn't buy him. But if you buy him, I feel like if you buy him, he's got to be in your starting lineup, and it's a case of set and forget because you don't know when the penalties are going to come. It's not a case of even form matters with that guy. It's literally this could be the week that he gets a penalty or not, and whether he's playing well or not doesn't matter because his record on penalties is solid. Doesn't miss them.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I think he's missed 2.
Yeah,
something like that. One really annoyingly.
the Man
City
City
City's unbeaten streak. But if you're going to get him, then he's going to be in.
You'd never be leaving him out at 7.5 as a midfielder. Like he's going to be in your team every week.
It's not
going to be the problem like what Suja did not last year, but the year before, where he was sort of 5 million, and you think, do I play him? Do I not play him? And you're quite right in terms of his fixtures. He can get a penalty in any game, right? And obviously the man who wins most is Wilfried Zaha. It seems all quiet on the front in terms of, we were kind of joking at the live show, would there be interest for him? It's very quiet at the moment, so I think we assume he's staying at the moment. Do you see him staying as a forward and similar price, Mig?
I can see. Probably the same sort of price. I was just thinking, would it go up? But I don't think his stats weren't that massive in terms of goals. I think he just got over double figures.
He did miss.
They'll definitely keep him as a forward.
I think he missed big chunks of the season. So, yeah,
he did. Yeah. He got a few injuries, I think, towards the latter end of the calendar year, and then in the new year he missed a few weeks. But I think, probably around the 7.5. Like I think he was the same as Arnautovic, because even someone like Arnautovic is a proven goal scorer, and if he's that price, then they're not going to exceed it anymore. But he'll definitely stay as a forward, and a potential option if he stays at Palace. I mean, I started with him last season. I ended with him last season. Obviously didn't have him throughout the middle of it. But I think it's definitely gone all quiet. I think after Arsenal losing in the cup final, and seems though they were one of the ones that sort of showed more interest, along with United, and he wants to play Champions League football, I think it's certainly gone a bit quiet. Maybe stick around for the year, see if we can push on and challenge for a Europa League place, possibly, hopefully, and then maybe look more in January or next year.
I know you got some stats in front of you, James. I don't know if this is any help or not, but what was Zaha's ownership towards the end of the season? Was he really low digits? Because I feel like after his injury, where he was out for a while, obviously everyone ditched him. Not that many people were quick to jump back on him for the last half of the season. He did really well in the last 10 game weeks or so.
He finished with an ownership of 15%.
Which for him is very low, but it's actually higher than I thought it would have been. I thought it might have been in single digits.
The thing is, when you look at the numbers of Zaha and you compare it to sort of players will be in a similar price next year, kind of Wilson's, Hotters, etc. 34 starts for Zaha, 21 attacking returns.
Decent.
What it is, isn't it? And he has explosive little runs, doesn't he? He's finished the last 2 seasons really strongly, and I actually think he was a little bit hampered last year by carrying an injury. Every now and again, the 4 games he missed were sort of all individually every now and again. So I think he struggled with carrying a knock for quite a while, and obviously because he's so integral to what Palace do. We was all aware during the season of the horrendous record when they played without him. They basically always got beat. So I think, Wilf Zaha, 7 million next year, if he's to be at the same, and I have no real expectation that his price would go up, is a serious consideration for me.
Definitely. It would definitely be in one of my third forward or maybe second forward, depending on how I do my money. He'll definitely be in that consideration.
Is there any chance you getting a good forward to play with him?
I'd like to. I mean, we do have Benteke and we have Sorloth, who was on loan, where he actually scored some goals. Lord Sorloth.
What's do you taking FPL out of the equation? I mean, Benteke's got a lot of strengths in terms of strength being one of them. He can hit a ball, but he just can't hit it on target. But is there some what the form he had at Villa that made you guys go in for him? Do you think he'll ever come good, or is he now just the kind of running joke forevermore? Do you see anything in him that's like, you know what, it just needs to hit the back of the net for a few games in a row, and then suddenly he'll gather some confidence and momentum, and become the player that he has the potential to become? Or is he always going to be just the poor man's Romelu Lukaku? A very poor man's Romelu Lukaku.
No, I definitely think it's a confidence thing with him, because when we first had him, the first season, I think he banged in a few.
Yeah, I just kicked it. Just saw that. Yeah,
That's one for the YouTube viewers.
Kicked the mic into my face. That was me doing a fucking Benteke with the mic there.
It wasn't Benteke because you hit the target.
Yeah,
mate.
true. Well, yeah, first season he was not so bad for you guys, right?
he was knocking him in, off his face. But he scored a few goals. I think he's got like 13, 15 goals, which, for a player at Palace is pretty good, to be fair. But then he missed a few, and then he had the time off injured, and then he hasn't really picked that up. But as soon as I think if he gets a run of, even if it's just 2 goals in 4 games or 3 goals in 5 or something like that, then he should be able to kick on, because he does play with confidence. It's just that decision making when he's got the ball in front of goal, he either just scuffs it with his feet or misses it completely. But as Palace fans have said on Twitter, when others have said, "Oh, we need to get rid of him, he's a waste of space," he is a presence that then allows people like Townsend and Wilf to get around and to take up the empty spaces that when he wins headers and stuff like that. So as a big forward, although his prime job is to score goals, the other stuff he does around not being able to score goals at times is benefiting the team.
I don't disagree with you when you say he does play with confidence. I mean, he had the corners to pick up the ball for that penalty and then miss it.
Yeah,
but he did have the balls to say, right, I'm having a pop and taking that. So I give him credit. It's a bit like a Shane Long, right? We spoke about it with Gaffer on our Southampton show, and he said, yeah, okay, his goal record is shockingly bad, but the Saints fans don't get on his back or anything because they see the work that he does running the channels.
Yeah, but this is the difference with a Benteke. Benteke is very stationary, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have the movement and the effort.
Play to his strengths and play with diagonals.
Yeah.
And one of the problems with that is you've obviously got 2 very good dribblers in Zaha and Townsend who want to carry the thing. Their first thought's not to cut inside and whip the ball in. So actually doesn't play to his strengths. But I do agree with what Mig said, that Benteke on the pitch causes enough chaos that you don't want to get isolated one-on-one for knockdowns.
Yeah.
And that benefits Zaha.
100%.
Mig, before we let you go, just a quick one on your thoughts on obviously the fixtures.
Well, I looked. Some people were saying that it is a tough start. Any start of the season is a tough start, and at home, where we have not been our most proficient of teams, against Everton is a very tough game. I haven't got them up in front of me at the moment, but I don't think it should be. Hopefully, we have a better start, because I mean, the last 2 seasons have been horrendous starts. The first 16 games in total, we won about 5, I think, in the last 2 seasons. And we need to really get some wins in those first weeks so that we push on up the league. And I think there are potential there to get wins, definitely. So I'm hoping for a better start than we have.
It kind of starts for the first few months, nice, horrible, nice, horrible, nice, horrible for a while. One of the things I noted, and we spoke about on episode 15, was I think you've got the best Christmas run. And for a side like yours that probably won't rotate as much as others, I think that's really important. This run from November the 30th up to New Year's Day, Burnley away, Bournemouth at home, Watford away, Brighton at home, Newcastle away, West Ham at home, Southampton away, Norwich away. Put that in your calendars. We'll all be having Palace players over Christmas.
Definitely, and I think because we got that run, if you can get on early, because the run before that is City, Arsenal, Leicester, Chelsea, and Liverpool, which there aren't going to be many people owning Palace players at that time.
That kind of example,
so if you can jump on them early,
perfect fixtures over form. That's what it will be.
Yeah.
But that's one of the best runs of fixtures that I can see that any team's got all season.
Back to the start of the season does need to be good. Roy Hodgson's done really well, but I feel like he's not a fashionable manager, and he's one of those that if you did have a bad start to the season, the pressure would mount pretty quickly. Yeah, I do. Just because it's got nothing to do with Hodgson's ability. I just don't think he's very fashionable. I mean, he's for want of a better phrase, he's an old man at the end of the day. Yeah, well, the thing is that quite often you see managers getting stick. I think Moyes is in that bracket, Sam Allardyce is in that bracket, and it's not necessarily their record or anything. It's just that they're not fashionable managers, and I don't think Roy Hodgson is, although he's doing a solid job at Palace. But say you lost 5 of your first 8 or something like that, the pressure would be on Hodgson straight away. And the media the media will remember the England stuff and the World Cup.
I don't know. I mean, what's the expectations this year, Miggs, and overall for Palace?
Expectations, at least on my part, I'd hope top half. I mean, since we've been promoted, we've ranged from 10th to 15th, so I think we've sort of got that mid-table locked in. Hopefully not to be in a relegation battle. So hopefully if we can get top half, maybe challenge for sort of 7th, 8th and 9th. I mean, we were only 8 points off Wolves this season after only winning 3 of the first 16. So if we can get a better start, then hopefully we can be one of those ones challenging for the top and not having to look behind.
Palace and Burnley, very under the radar, had good second halves of the season.
Yeah, but Burnley, you can understand why, because
definitely.
they shook that Europa League monkey off their back, and it gave them just the couple of things to concentrate on league and cup, domestic cup. Palace are a good season.
Palace's second half of the season, I think, was better than Spurs and Arsenal's, if I remember right. It's
Cool.
very close.
Yeah, I think that's my slight worry. If we have a really good start to the season, I'm not sure if they then have another good second half of the season. I think because we put ourselves in such a position in the first half that we need to have a good second half and we up our performances, I'm hoping that we have a good start and then we have another good second half.
But I think if you can get up to that December period, sort of 11th, 12th, there's every chance to push for a top half finish. I think it's within the capabilities of the squad if it stays together.
Yeah, if we keep our key players and build upon it rather than hopefully not losing our 2 best players and having to sort of rebuild again.
Agreed.
That's
Nick, you ready for Planet FPL Live 2? We just need to finalise the date. You know what? We really wanted to do opening day of the season, and then both West Ham and Spurs are home on the opening day of the season. So James is going to be watching his Spurs side beat Villa, and I don't know what's going to happen with West Ham City. Let's be honest, we know what's going to happen with West Ham City. So it's not going to be opening day of the season, but we're going to announce it soon. But it's going to be in and around that kind of time. We definitely need to get everyone together again because it was a really good afternoon.
Yeah, it was really good. I think you guys done. It certainly looked really professional. It was a good day. It was good drinks. Yeah. I know. It was a struggle. I think it was more Manchild.
Yeah. Just Manchild.
Running the show. There we go.
Manchild was busy. Matchild was busy running other things.
So we need to. We just want to say thanks for the articles you've provided throughout the season to support the community and all the rest of it. We're looking forward to hearing more about Palace in the coming season. As with all of the 30 and 30 we're doing, it feels like this is the first half of a 2-part conversation because once the prices are announced and we know a little bit more around the fixtures, we're going to need to delve back into your kind of knowledge on Palace and thoughts on who to pick and who not to. But thanks for joining us today and shedding some light on the Eagles.
No worries, lads.
Thanks, Mig. All the best, pal. Suj.
Anything else to add, James?
Tomorrow we've got Dan, FPL Loco Lord, on Liverpool, which should be fascinating, delving into the prices of that back line. And I suppose that's going to dominate the conversation. So yeah, do stay tuned. This is episode 19 of the 30 and 30. 11 more coming at you with some really good guests and shows coming up. So make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when we release the next show. Other than that, ciao for now. Cue music, man, child.
The Fantasy Football Show.